Perfect. Awesome. So let me first. So first of all, thank you so much, JB, for hosting me here. Obviously, I mean the work you've been doing, absolute trailblazer. It's just an honor to be here, and a huge thanks to everyone who's sort of taking time out from a weekend to come and listen to this. So this is definitely for us to all learn together, grow together. So thank you for joining. So in today's session, like JB was saying, we'll talk about a 10-step journey to a solution architect. And let me get started. So quick introduction about myself. I work as a senior principal in Slalom. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada. I've got about 13 years of experience in the Salesforce ecosystem, before which I had a bit of experience in sales and finance and management consulting. And I also hold about 19 Salesforce certifications, including B2B and B2C Solution Architect certifications. I've co-founded a website called Salesforce Couple. There we've got a bunch of blogs around, generally around learning Salesforce, business scenarios where you can check what you learned. There are things about Salesforce and Agile and so on. So definitely check that out. And apart from all things Salesforce, I love creating puzzles. I love playing chess and ping pong, or table tennis as it's known in other parts of the world. My LinkedIn, Twitter details are here. Feel free to connect, reach out if anyone wants to discuss anything related to solution architect, Salesforce consulting, or anything in Salesforce in general. Definitely would love to do that. So with that background, let me first set a context. Before we go about the 10-step journey, I want to just share why we are having this discussion today. Why is it so important? I think many of you, as we sort of introduced ourselves and we're sharing our background, it's clear that yes, there's something which is there in the offering and has come up relatively new in the Salesforce ecosystem. So as a background, right, in the last 5 to 10 years, Salesforce has made a lot of acquisitions. The last few years has made fairly large acquisitions of large companies and added new products to its portfolio. So what it has become, it's not just a CRM with extra different clouds. It's really become an enterprise level player across the entire business process. And all these different pieces or what these Salesforce products are, they combine. They work together to complete sort of a jigsaw puzzle. So if you think of different pieces of a jigsaw puzzle coming together, you have an entire picture which covers a business process which spans end to end. It is not just sales, it is not just service, but an end-to-end customer journey. It's about helping businesses succeed, achieve their vision, and translate what they want to do and help across all the different processes involved to make them successful, where Salesforce, through its products, through its acquisitions, across its platform, gives a variety of solutions which work together to provide that value. So in that context, in the last 1.5 years, Salesforce as a company itself has developed and consolidated and really refined the solution architect role and defined a career path. So as we talked about certifications, we've got B2C Solution Architect, B2B Solution Architect certifications. Both are relatively new in the last 1 year in the ecosystem. They have their prerequisites, but they also have been built and oriented with this particular role in mind. And there's a lot of training material, trailhead modules. If you're a Salesforce partner, there's a lot of content which is available as well. I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay. Okay, so with that in mind, let me really bring to what we want to do, right? So with all this, oh, I think we need to mute someone. I think JB.
I think we're good now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that background, right, that's where the question comes, is how does one become a solution architect? So this is really the context and background in which we're operating today, and where I want to sort of share from my experience what could be a way you can achieve that role. How do you become that, and how do you really get all the skill sets needed? So with this context, let's go to the agenda of the discussion. So we're talking about a 10-step journey, right? So in the 10-step journey, we have an end goal. So for any journey, let's define what our destination is. Where do we want to reach? So we'll start out by defining what a solution architect is, what that role means. Then we'll pick a starting point. We'll take a persona at a early point in a Salesforce career. So we are really saying, okay, this is the destination. This is where we're going to start our journey. And then, of course, we will walk that 10-step journey. How do you get from starting point to end goal? A general direction. How do you build your career path and achieve what you want to do? So with that, let's start with the end goal, the destination in mind. Okay, what is a Salesforce Solution Architect? There are a few things which are very important for a Salesforce Solution Architect. Now, there are multiple architect roles defined in the Salesforce ecosystem. We would have heard of CTAs and data architects and integration architects and so on. From a Salesforce Solution Architect, the key is you're understanding multi-cloud solutions, which means you're looking at solving business problems using more than one Salesforce product and products working together. So, for example, when there's a marketing lead which is handed off to sales, or if there's a B2B commerce platform which integrates with the service cloud, you're talking about different products, different clouds, not even necessarily hosted natively on Salesforce platform. Like, for example, Marketing Cloud was originally Exact Target, so it wasn't built on Salesforce platform. The B2B and B2C commerce platforms were CloudCraze and Demandware, which were different platforms, right? So how do they all come together under the Salesforce umbrella to deliver those solutions? With that, you also need to understand the domain, process, and functional expertise for scale and sustainability. Now, what that means, you need to understand how it operates in a business context. How do these products work together? How do they give that value? And how do you provide solutions or develop solutions which are built for scale and also for providing long-term value? Now, from Salesforce's perspective, they've also consolidated and provided a very clear definition of key leadership traits a solution architect should have. And let me put that up. So these three are actually from what Salesforce provides. I've just copied there because that's the best reference point for us, right? So there are three leadership tenets which we need to develop to become a Salesforce architect, a solution architect. First is technical leadership. You should be able to provide technical leadership by selecting the proper multi-cloud products. So again, it's by selecting which products in the Salesforce ecosystem best align with what the company's vision and business goals are. Now you start seeing in a lot of this role description and the way these skill sets are defined, that this is not a pure technical play. So even in technical leadership, you will see the definition is more about being able to select the correct products which align with business value goals, which align with the company's vision. So it's very important that we understand these different products and how they work from a business's success point of view. So that's the technical leadership, how it's defined. Obviously, you need to know to some level what these different cloud products are, how they work, and what features are offered. It is not necessary that you need to know all of them in depth with every single feature and every single small tweak you can do with that particular cloud. But it's more important to know what are the different ways they align with business goals and how do you select the correct one. Next is business leadership. And this is about demonstrating business leadership by guiding companies on this journey. So once you've sort of selected this multi-cloud, you have to help them on that journey to be able to differentiate themselves. So using different things like Experience Cloud and marketing journeys and so on, how do you give a differentiated experience? So now what you're talking about is not just being aligned to businesses vision, you're talking about how does a company use these products to differentiate themselves. So even within the slew of native off-the-shelf value and features which these products provide, how do you leverage them to make it successful for a specific company so that they are differentiated? And then the third part of it is delivery leadership, is really about the execution part of it. How do you implement best practices based on different use case delivery? And it again spans a customer's 360 vision and platform. So this is, of course, when you look at this, it looks like, oh man, I have to know everything. It's really not about that. It's about being able to look at different pieces of the Salesforce platform, look at different parts of a business and understand how it all comes together. So, and to be able to guide a customer on that journey, both from a thought leadership perspective and from an execution perspective. But what's really important, in my opinion, fundamental aspect which you need to develop as part of a solution architect is that leadership underlying quality. You are actually providing leadership. You're not just saying that a customer has this requirement, I'm going to solve for it, but really putting yourself in the driver's seat, sitting alongside the customer and saying, hey, this is how you're supposed to do this. This is the best practice. I'll help you get there because I understand the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So that's really the power of what a solution architect brings. It's a very strong mix of business and technical expertise coming together. So with that, let me give a quick scenario, because it when we describe these leadership traits, right, it will actually sound very fuzzy, especially when we are starting off in our journey. So let me talk about a different scenario. So we've got a quick diagram here. So we've got Service Cloud and Commerce Cloud and Marketing Cloud represented by their icons, and we have some connectors between these different clouds which are available, so that these clouds can communicate with each other. There's a customer 360 in the center. In this sort of setup, how does this really translate in a real life scenario, right? So if I give an example, let's say you're wanting to purchase a particular product on a website. So we are on the B2C commerce cloud front, on the storefront, and we are actually trying to purchase something. We look at something and say, oh, this looks good, I add it to the cart, but I'm not sure. Okay, I'll say, okay, let me come back and think about this later. I'm not sure whether I want to buy this this particular laptop or whatever it is. Now, so it's lying there in my cart. But from a business perspective, there is an opportunity for that particular company to make that sale, because you've got a customer who's interested, put something in the cart and not really gone forward with it. So what can you do, right? So Commerce Cloud can define sort of time limits and cookies and your session settings and all that, where you say, okay, this something has been in the cart for a little while. Let me now send a message to Marketing Cloud and saying, can you send an email to this person saying that, hey, we've noticed something on your cart which has been there. Do you need any help with closing this purchase? Or maybe there are some recommended items which we can use, right? So you can use Einstein for recommendations and all. So now what's happening is Commerce Cloud is talking to Marketing Cloud, and Marketing Cloud sends an email to me saying, hey, Prashant, you've put something on your cart. Is there any help you need, right? I might say, okay, I might just ignore it. Okay, I know it's there. You don't need to remind me. I'll look at it later. It's been there for a day, right? Now, what you could also do is have someone call me. So maybe you send a message to Service Cloud. It's Service Cloud, and you will have a notification for a service agent, and a service rep can call and say, hey, Prashant, you need any help with your order? And by the way, if you make a purchase right now, we can give you 10% off. Right? So there might be certain discounts the service reps may be authorized in this particular in this scenario. So I say, okay, wait, I'm not in front of my computer, but I want to definitely make that purchase. Is it? No worries, I can do that for you. So the service rep now can log in from Service Cloud, get into my cart. They can do what they call an order on behalf of a customer and make that purchase, right? So now what's happening here? For me as a customer, I thought about purchasing something. I needed some motivation, but I was egged on to make that purchase and definitely bring revenue for the customer, for the company which is making that particular product. But to make all that happen, we had Commerce Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Service Cloud, all working together in a seamless fashion. And then also we had service agents aligned with that process to make that successful, right? Now, this isn't from a user perspective who put something in the cart and got an email and somebody called him. It's very simple. But behind the scenes, what you are building out across a multi-cloud scenario to make that business scenario a reality, using all these Salesforce products, to be able to solution this, to be able to give thought leadership on this, to be able to help execute this, is what a solution architect does. Right. So this is just a little bit of a real life touch to what a Salesforce Solution Architect is. I wanted to spend a little more time on this end destination, what a Salesforce Solution Architect is, before going on to the journey. But this will hopefully give you a sense of where you want to achieve, what's the level of expertise and value a solution architect brings. Right. So with that, we talked about what the destination is, where the end journey is. Now let's pick a starting point of our journey. So as in very typical scenarios, we'll go with a persona of someone who's got about 2.5 years of Salesforce experience, so fairly new in the Salesforce ecosystem, has got probably good Salesforce, Sales Cloud and platform foundational knowledge, has a bit of admin and Apex development experience, and already taken, let's say, admin and the platform developer one certifications, and is really preparing for Sales Cloud consultant, because the person's got a bit of Sales Cloud knowledge, worked on that project, thinking about taking that. But as the person is looking at all this with really fresh eyes and really lofty goals, what the person is wanting to be is really a Salesforce solution architect someday. So now our real meat of the presentation is really going to be about helping this person here at this point in their professional journey go and traverse that 10-step journey to achieve what they want to be. That is a Salesforce solution architect. So how does that journey look like, right? What I have seen is any Salesforce journey. Now what happens is you will have projects you're working on, so you will get experience in that project, and you have a lot of material which is available online. You may not have projects in that particular area, but you can still go ahead and learn. There's so much out there in Trailhead, and of course a lot of the sessions and things community people are sharing. So there are two aspects of what this journey involves. One is your experience aspect. That aspect is where you actually work on projects, where you have real life experience in delivering, executing for actual business scenarios and solving for them. And the other part is where you invest in yourself, and you may not have had that experience in that particular area, but you say, okay, let me go and read about it. Let me try and understand it. Let me do something on my trial org. Let me potentially take some certifications as well to test my knowledge. But both of these are important. So this part of this journey, you'll have, for that 10 step, I would say there's a series of pair of steps, or two steps, one step involving experience, one step involving knowledge. So there's like 5 pairs of steps which will help you get there. But both are, in my opinion, equally important. You definitely gain a lot based on your Salesforce work project, or work on Salesforce projects, but you also learn a lot based on self-learning activities. And the reason I've called this out for the journey is because many times in our career, especially when you're starting off, you don't get a lot of choices in what sort of projects you're working on. You may have gotten to a project because this was a critical need for the organization you're working in. And of course, when you're new in your career, you may not have a lot of options. You may not have established yourself to have a conversation saying, no, I want to do this particular project and not this one, right? So you are sort of limited by the experience based on what your organization or wherever you're working allows you. Whereas what you can learn yourself, the knowledge part of it, is what you control. So you can definitely build upon what you're already gaining through experience. So with that context of how this road looks like, let's take the first 2 steps on that particular 10-step journey. The first 2 steps, meaning there'll be one part which will be experience based, and there will be one step which will be knowledge based. So again, keeping in mind the person of what we defined, someone who's starting off about 2.5 years experience. From an experience perspective, I would say build on the experience in the current focus area. So if the person's working on a Sales Cloud project, understand that project in its entirety. Initially, you may be working on specific user stories or a specific feature, or maybe limited in scope, but definitely try to spend time with looking through other user stories, talking to your teammates, looking at the the full solution. If possible, talking to the architect there and saying, okay, how does this entire thing, how have you built it out? Can you share that? And so that even though you may be working on, say, let's say just the forecasting piece in Sales Cloud, or just opportunity splits, or maybe just the lead conversion, whereas the project may span many other areas in Sales Cloud, you may actually get to learn about them because you start interacting with them. Also, at this point, try to see how end users actually use the product. So once you've actually delivered it, if you have a chance, if it's possible, speak to end users and see how they're using the product. If not, at least talk to functional testers who are testing the products and see how they're testing it, right? Look at the test cases, because those will be based on more real life scenarios. And here the idea is very simple. You have a scope of area you're working in, a project you're working in, you have your set of requirements you're working on, but try to understand it with a little broader context. And broader context both from a technical side, how does the solution span end to end? Also from a business perspective. See, at this point itself, start thinking and applying that business knowledge. How do end users actually use this? Now, I have built this. It could be as simple as I built this validation rule, or I put this flow together and doing this set of activities, or helping guiding the user to do this and this. How does the user actually use it? Some of these small things may be very straightforward, but when you look at it from an end-to-end process, you may learn more things. And even if it's something which you already know, what it helps you is you're already in yourself building a mindset where you try to understand the business context of your technical solution. That's the experience part of it. Now, with that, also try to spend some time in learning yourself. Now, when we are talking about knowledge and the material available in Salesforce, there's a whole slew of things, right? You can learn many things. There's a entire ocean out there, right? So don't, my recommendation, especially early on, don't try to gather every single thing. If you're working on a Sales Cloud project, learn that product as much as possible. Obviously, any project, if they're working on a particular cloud, it will not necessarily cover all the features of the cloud. So you definitely will be areas which you're not using. So try to learn that and use that as, so go through Trailhead, try to build scenarios which are not covered in the project. So something which they're not using, but that particular product offers. So for example, in Service Cloud, if it's not using entitlements, try and see how it works. How do you build the different types of entitlements, and how does it show up, and how does it tie to SLAs, right? So try to understand that particular cloud very well. Keep up with release notes to see how this cloud is progressing, what sort of different features are getting added, what's really in the roadmap. So the idea is, right, with an experience in a particular cloud, and you're spending time investing knowledge around that, you're building a core area of expertise, getting a very solid foundation on that particular single cloud. And you're also understanding how it solves for specific business use cases, because you're trying to also talk to end users, right? So here, when you're starting in that particular journey, the goal to get to solution architect, it may seem far, but the idea is to build your foundations very strong. So the first two steps is, whatever area you're working on, make it your own. You build a very strong expertise in that, and that then you take your next step. So once you have done this, you would have had a great, so again, the person can take a Sales Cloud consultant certification, just to, again, get a very formalized learning also on that particular area, and be very familiar with that. But as progressing from there, right? So once you've got that basic foundation on one cloud, how do you move forward? What are the next two steps you take? So from an experience perspective, what I would say is, try to see if you can get experience on a related or closest cloud, right? So if you have done, say, marketing, can you do something on sales where there's a lead to a marketing team to a sales rep handoff happening? Right? Or if you have done something on sales, and let's say if you're not getting anything, can you get something on CPQ, which is again sort of extension of Sales Cloud, right? So try to think of areas. If you've done something on Service Cloud, can you do something on Experience Cloud and bring in that customer community type experience and expand on that, right? So if you can get a next level of project, if you can work with your organization to help you get some experience on a cloud which is related to that, it will be really helpful. Because what that does is, it gives you an extension of that use case. So if you're working on Service Cloud and you've done Experience Cloud, and you've built the customer community, and you're doing knowledge articles and also tying it with cases, you're trying to see how these different things start interacting together. And you also try to meet with business users across these use cases. In that particular project, if you're able to work, try to see scenarios where it cuts from one cloud to another. So from a Marketing Cloud, if they're using the Marketing Cloud Connect, and then it sends to say Sales Cloud, how do the contacts or the leads get created? How is the data managed? How is it mapped? Which user uses which cloud where, and what do they do in that particular cloud, right? So now what you're trying to do is really little bit expand it. You're really adding one more piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and so you're at least able to see across two different clouds. So see if you can get an experience which is closest to that, so that based on a very solid foundation you built on one, you are now applying that and extending that to another cloud. And from a knowledge perspective, try to see how these two clouds work together, right? They can be some native connectors, they could be on the same platform, but how does the data model work? Which objects are shared? What are the different, if there's an integration required, what are some basics of integration also you can pick up at this point, right? What are APIs? What type of APIs are there? You don't have to get hands-on and all, but at least what you're trying to do here is you're trying to understand the basics of two products working together, right? So if you can both get an experience with a related crowd and build some knowledge, what happens is you will understand how these work together from a process, technology, and business view. All three are important. So from a process perspective is like, for example, even when you understand the dependencies between the two, both when you are, say, deploying one or deploying to the other, what are the shared data models and so on. From a technology perspective, what are the different features different products offer? And again, repeatedly through this entire journey, how does it really translate from a business perspective? If you can meet with business users who are sitting from using multiple clouds, or you meet with team which is using one cloud and then another team which uses the other, and see how the same record or the same particular customer details are transferred through and enhanced, enriched, how it is taken through that journey through these different Salesforce products. It will give you a very good experience of how they work together. Again, at many of these aspects, what happened is sometimes you may think, okay, this is very simple, I've understood this, but try to get as much in depth as possible. Spend time understanding these clouds, understanding how they connect with each other, what are some best practices there, what are some limitations there. uh, and what happens is you're doing two things. One is you're building your knowledge. Also, with what you do over these first two steps is you're building sort of a muscle memory or muscle instinct to look at everything from a bigger picture perspective, and also including the business part of it, because you both have to balance the technical and business side of this. So with these first two steps, you would have got a fairly solid understanding of how some basic things work, and you're well on your journey towards becoming a solution architect. And now let's take the next two steps. Now, next two steps I would say is start building some expertise on products which augment and support some core business processes. And when I say augment and support, let's look at things like MuleSoft or Heroku or Tableau. Now, they do not necessarily align to a single Salesforce cloud. MuleSoft can be used for connecting both within the Salesforce ecosystem and outside. And Tableau, of course, can provide data visualization and analytics across different clouds. So these are very, what I would say, sort of plug and play use cases, which you can do and apply in different scenarios. So if you can get an experience to work on one or more of them, if you can start learning about at least one of them in depth, it'll give you a really good understanding of how certain business processes which get repeated across or are used in different places. So reporting and analytic requirements may be on the sales side, maybe on the service side, on the marketing side, on it could be in whichever scenario, B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter, but the requirements are basic and common there. So if you built a skill set around Tableau, you really have an idea of how this works. Again, it doesn't have to be an in-depth knowledge, but really how do you apply these to different use cases? What sort of solutions are available from Salesforce, and how do you apply them? And if you can also understand some best practices and limitations. So again, this will be balanced with your experience and also the knowledge. You'll have to go and read up on this, because again, a project may not necessarily give you that full exposure, but there is a lot of material around what you can do to really understand this and map these to different business goals. And by this time, what you're really trying to do is gain a strong understanding of how Salesforce offerings work together by augmenting and extending functionality across different business processes. And the key is no more silos. And the reason I say that here is, once you've sort of gone to this level and you've gained all this expertise, intuitively, even if you're working on a single project, you will know that yes, there is a world beyond this. It extends to different other either Salesforce products or other products which support business processes which span across. So you would have a bigger picture in mind. You'll start understanding how these pieces work in isolation. So if you look at a single jigsaw piece, you will know that it is a piece of a bigger puzzle, and there is a puzzle which creates that whole picture. So by that time, you would start being able to appreciate and understand how these things work. So if you start building some expertise at this point around this, would really help you in that journey. So now we are moving, of course, much closer, next two steps. And here we want to see if you can get really a broader domain expertise. So of course, by this time you would have gained a lot of experience and you would have very strong skill sets which you can apply. So you can look for projects which give you a broader domain experience. If possible, really work on large projects, multi-cloud projects, or even different projects, and if possible in the same business domain, because it will help you really build a lot of expertise in that domain. If not, also fine. But if you've done like 5 projects in retail by this time, why not try and understand the retail domain better? If you've done it on the financial services side, let's definitely, and Salesforce offers industry specific solutions as well across different verticals, so you can understand that as well, along with its velocity acquisitions. See, again, the acquisitions come into play where you have industry specific accelerators or solutions really built for that particular industry, right? So here you're really understanding a little bit more, not just in a bigger picture perspective, but also seeing what these businesses, what these companies are looking for at a broader level. From a knowledge perspective, do try to understand some core business concepts and drivers. It's not that you have to have an MBA or you need to be able to read a balance sheet. It's more that you should be able to understand, okay, there are certain drivers which will help revenue growth, certain drivers which will really affect and impact your margins. Certain things will talk about inventory turnover. Certain things bring in efficiency in certain areas of a business, and how they relate to from a technology implementation perspective. If you can learn about some industry products, if you have some experience in that, and that will obviously augment that. If you have specific domain expertise, it becomes really good, because these industry products have data models which are very tuned with that particular industry's terminology, the phrases and the words, and the how that particular industry is structured. So at this point of time, you really would understand how technology supports business, right? So again, by this time, it's that balance would have come very strongly. You would have built a very strong expertise around both technology and relating to business. And if you've sort of followed the steps, like I said, right, if you've been consciously making an effort to follow how business problems are solved while you're using Salesforce products, and both are going in parallel, this would have really started showing a lot of fruit at this point of time. And your real goal of being a solution architect would be definitely well in sight. And of course, with that, we'll come to a final 2 steps. I say final 2 steps, but it's obviously a never-ending journey. There's always more and more to learn, and there's always more to gain from. So you try to look for experience in true multi-cloud implementations. You take proactive leadership roles. And this is very important. I say proactive leadership. I've chosen those 2 words very important, very specifically. Proactive, because not always you're thrust into the front seat and making decisions. So step up yourself, put yourself in scenarios where you have to take challenging decisions, form opinions with clear reasonings, guidelines, and sort of suggestions on why something has to be done, supported by your experience and knowledge of what you have learned and what you can offer. Solve for complex business use cases. It is not just a simple use case of how can I implement the sales process, but how do I do this end-to-end journey for a customer, make our business more successful. And also balance that with a lot of multi-cloud solutioning learning which is available. So there are a lot of material which you should have started picking up on different aspects of solution architecture. both from Trailhead perspective, from a partner learning camp perspective. There's a lot of videos and sessions. There are some excellent videos which talk through different use cases from Salesforce itself. Definitely invest time in going through them, and even if it's not pertaining to what you're doing, what it does is it'll open your mind to thinking in more broader perspectives. So with that and all, learning about how to see a customer as a human being, understanding the overall customer 360 perspective of what an organization tries to achieve, and being able to solve that. So with all this together as sort of a culmination of this journey, if you are able to do all this, I'm sure you can definitely get those certifications to validate. But then as a actual true leader, you would have become a true Salesforce solution architect. So that would be a very happy destination and a reason to celebrate. And if I were to just recap how this 10-step journey is, it's a multi-cloud, multi-dimensional journey, meaning you are looking across different products, you are learning different facets of leadership, you're building all these. So if you feel that, okay, I'm just focused on technology and I'm not really spending time on business leadership or delivery leadership, make sure you're consciously building a learning path across all the streams, and you have to be able to speak across those areas. And you don't have to seek for perfection. It's always an ongoing journey. We keep learning, and there's so much more which Salesforce keeps bringing. um, Look at the big picture while knowing the details. So you don't have to you don't have to know how to code technically. You can do without as well, but you should know some best practices, what should be done where you should use code. You should know some basics of how integration works and what are some best practices there, what are the options available, what you would use where, what are the limitations, right? So big picture you should know while knowing the details. You should know how the products work together. Even if you know two products very well, it doesn't you to become a solution architect, you have to know how they work together. It's not just about individual siloed understandings. Keep all the three technical business. I keep repeating this, but it's very important. Keep all three in mind. And learn from each other. I think that's the most important, because in our journey we will have limited experiences, we have limited time, but we as a community, as all who are trying to learn from each other, spend time, talk to people who have done similar roles, who are ahead of you in the journey, or who are you can pick from someone who's just starting off as well, because you get all different perspectives. So learn from each other. It will help accelerate the growth, and really enjoy that 10-step journey, I would say, and wish you all the very best on whoever is looking forward for that. With that, I think that wraps up what I have from my side. I can open it up to questions, JB.
That's awesome, Prashant. I didn't realize it's this much difficult to be a solution architect. For sure, we need to be an expert in multiple clouds, and knowledge we need to gain is so deep. Thanks for covering it in very detailed steps. One question, so would you be able to share this recording? Would you be able to share the slide deck?
I can keep the recording if that is fine. If you need it, I can do that as needed, JB. No issues at all.
Okay. And I have one question from Brian.
Oh, let me.
Brian, if you also want to unmute and then add any details to it, you're welcome. As of now, I will be reading the question. Do the cookies that you allow on a commerce website influence what actions Marketing Cloud can take?
That's a very, very specific question. No, they don't directly should not influence. I mentioned that in the sense that you can capture information on Commerce Cloud, which can help basically send information to Marketing Cloud. If you want to do some trigger send, you can build some logic as needed. But technically, I'm not sure. I don't think directly they will influence. So, but that's a very, very specific question.
And another one by Shelton. What would be the difference between the technical architect and the solution architect?
Yeah, absolutely. So technical architect is something which has been established for a fair amount of time. It is the key about technical architect is really both breadth and depth of knowledge. You need to know a lot of the Salesforce foundational products very well and in depth. There are of course certain areas which you need to know in even more depth, but it's really about finding the best technical solution given a particular scenario. Again, you have to take a lot of detailed technical consideration. So you need to know a lot more about how integrations, how authentication, how all that works in much more depth than you would need for a solution architect. So if I were to sort of put if you look like a 2 by 2 sort of a matrix, right? If you have the business solutioning on one side and technical solutioning on one side, the solution architect requires a balance of both, whereas a technical architect is much more of a technical focused view of that solutioning. So you need to have much more in-depth technical knowledge for a technical architect. You need to have, I would say, a equally broad for solution architect, but also an equally strong understanding from a business success enablement perspective, and also from an execution perspective. How do you, so what are the best practices around deploying or building a multi-cloud solution environment for a customer? So there are overlaps, but there is significant difference in the level of focus areas which you would need for solution versus technical. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Prashant. So I do have another question from Ji. He already has the admin certification, and the next target for him is the BD1, as suggested by another colleague. Another suggestion he also got is to go for the app builder certification, and then sales service and other certifications, and then take the BD1.
Okay.
So what do you suggest?
Okay. So in my opinion, admin, PD1, app builder are sort of foundational certifications. Will you take them immediately? You take them 1 year later, it doesn't matter. I think it's good to gain that knowledge irrespective of. So again, I'm looking from a bigger, longer picture perspective, right? If you're saying, if you take PD1 today, or should I take app builder today? It doesn't really matter if you have a specific focus in your immediate project, which is more about where there's a little more development focus and you want to understand that more. Maybe PD1. If you're looking at more from just building lightning apps and more point and click, maybe app builder, maybe a more immediate focus. But you can definitely take both down the line, right? What I would say is especially at that point, is build your understanding across these areas. Be it admin, app builder, PD1, you need to know all three, because they're all foundational to your Salesforce platform. And then of course, from a specific cloud perspective, I would look at if you have a project which is in a particular area, because you will get experience there. You're working on, say, Service Cloud. It's easier to take a certification there because you are doing a project, and also what you learn, it will really help you start aligning to what you're learning as well. But I don't see you can really go wrong with either one of the two. From an app builder versus PD1, see what aligns more with your immediate need, but look for at least getting that knowledge down the line from a solution architect perspective, because you need to know how the platform works and how it's fundamentally built. If that makes sense.
Makes sense, Prashant. And another question by Ankit: how many years of practical experience in Salesforce is required minimum to start working as an application or a solution architect? And he added more details to it.
Okay.
I can see many folks hold application architect cert in just 4 to 6 years of experience, which I think is not a good idea. What do you think?
Okay. So there are two parts. One is how many years of experience you need to be an application or solution architect. That I don't know if there's a definitive answer to that. I don't think you can do it in 1 or 2 years simply because you need experience. Whether you need 10-15 years, it's not. You can do it faster than that, I'm very sure. But it could take 10 years if you're not able to get that experience. So I would say somewhere in the middle. But yeah, probably you can do it in 6 to 7 years definitely if you've got focused experience. But then the thing is, it's not a journey where it stops. So even if you are at that time doing a solution architect role for a particular scenario, the scenarios will be more the B2B scenarios, B2C scenarios with different clouds. You may not have that breadth of experience which maybe someone with more years of experience has had, who has worked on multiple clouds, but you can still potentially play that role even with just 6-7 years of experience. But more than being held accountable, I think you need to think of, especially for someone starting off or early in their Salesforce career, look at it as a goal you are trying to achieve. And especially if you have got experience in other technologies before, you may be able to do that even faster, right? Because you have an understanding of technology and enterprise architecture, and also you may have an understanding of how business problems are solved. So all these come together. So there's no definitive answer. It is definitely not something you can take a shortcut and get to, but you can definitely put in your time and accelerate that growth with help from experience as well. And then from a certification perspective, you can hold application architect with even less than 4 years, because you just have to study for the certification and pass it. It's passing the certification is one part of it, right? It is a part of so in what I was saying, it is the knowledge part of your journey. You cannot just reach the destination by just following the knowledge path. You need the experience path as well. So you can learn, get certified, definitely. And I there is a value of the certifications, because it's a structured syllabus you have to learn and you prepare for, and you'll definitely, when you study for something, you learn something, it'll help you. But when you apply to a project, the learning is even stronger. So it has to be balanced with both, and you can become that if you've got that experience. But definitely there's only so much you can cut short on the experience part. And again, look at it from a I think more than quantifying by years or what you've done, if we look at our individually as individuals, what we are learning. So for example, even for me now, I can see there's so much more I can learn. There's so much more to do. So by the time you get 10-15 years in experience, you will still feel that there is still so much more to learn. So you just start your own journey as quickly as you can, as much as you can, soak in and give back. I think that is all the focus should be. If someone gets something sooner, great, it is fantastic, but judge yourself by your own milestones and you'll get there. But it's not something you can take a shortcut on for sure. You definitely have to put in that experience, and because you can't be taught about what the real life problems come when you're executing a project, about the interactions with the customers. You will be definitely talking to senior leaders, business leaders, and explaining a business solution, how it spans across different clouds and how it will help them transform their business, right? So that sort of experience can only come by actually doing it, even though you may have the certs to back you up. So that's what I would say.
It's a great answer, Prashant.
Yeah, no, it's a long-winded.
That's needed also. And most of us may not have the opportunity to have hands-on. We may not be playing that role, but if we have that goal to become a solution architect, may not be this year or 2 years later or 3 years later. If we have that end goal in mind, then we can observe how the solution architect responsibilities could be. If somebody is already on the team, how they have been effectively communicating or how they've been handling stuff. So we can learn from other people's experience as well. That's what I would say. And the other question from Vanessa: if we are closer to 6 months experience, should we hold off pursuing this? And I know solution architects with around 2 years in the ecosystem. And even in my experience, I have seen few people, they join a new company and they were given a solution architect role. But I think it's the role, how it is structured, the organization.
Yeah, exactly. So Vanessa, the great question. If you're 6 months and you're trying to see, okay, whether so yes, there's a long-term goal. What I would suggest is, if someone 6 months or very early in Salesforce ecosystem, keep your options open. And for a simple reason is because you don't have to be stuck to that goal. whether you want to be a technical architect, whether you want to be a program manager, you want to be whatever, but whatever, if you want to be a developer, if you want to be a solution architect, but right now, if you're learning Salesforce, focus on getting the foundational knowledge of Salesforce. That is important irrespective where you are. As you do this, you will get more clarity on this role and keep understanding that solution architect role better. Keep that goal in mind, but reevaluate it consistently so that you know for sure, yes, this is what I want to be. What could happen is you may say, wait, I've really developed a strong understanding to the core technical aspects of it. I want to probably pursue a CTA path, technical architect path. I'm not really for solution architect. It could happen. So the reason I say is, with 6 months, you may not have enough insights or had that exposure to really make that fully informed decision for yourself. So take a little more time, but keep it open. Don't always have that end goal in mind. Yes, right now I feel solution architect makes sense. I'm going to move towards it. Maybe but I'm going to keep my eyes open to assess, am I really heading in the right direction? And potentially, as I learn and talk to more people who've been in the ecosystem for long, understand this better, I will probably have a better understanding. Is this really for me? But I'll definitely work towards it. Even if after another 6 months or 1 year, I change my course, I haven't really lost any of what I have done, because the foundational knowledge is really common to wherever you want to go in the Salesforce ecosystem.
Thanks, Prashant. And another question by Sagar. I think you have answered this from a different perspective earlier. So this is about the role of the technical architect and the solution architect. Who will have the major say or the upper hand?
So first of all, they're not competing. So different roles, right? Both play a different role in the overall space of things, right? They have different, but some level of overlapping contributions. Both are leaders. Both are leaders in the Salesforce ecosystem. The technical architect is really focused on a technical leadership and sort of understanding of how the platform should be used across the board with its best practices, with all the nuances involved across different applications. The solution architect is focused from a business enablement using these products, right? So what could happen is, if you're having discussions with business leaders, the solution architect would be probably a better representation to be able to have that communication. If you're talking to the technical leader, the technical architect may be a better representation. And it could be that, especially in the initial roadmap, high-level discussions, solution architect may have a initial say, but when it gets to more technical details, it could be the technical architect comes and steps up. But both are different leaders, which definitely have I would say a level playing field in the ecosystem. They offer two sets of leadership skills which are needed. So it's almost, if you ask me, is the chief marketing officer or chief technology officer more important? And these are not exact parallels, but just to give you an idea, right? Both are important. So both play different leadership roles, and there are areas where they have to think about the other person's role as well. So technology has to understand marketing has to be successful, right? Yeah. So that's
well said, Prashant. And we are almost at time, 2 more minutes. So we have 3 more questions. One question I think I can answer offline. Questions if we have time. If you have time, Prashant, I will go ahead.
Sure.
One from Brian. How does solution architect differ from a Salesforce program or a program manager or a project manager? So different organizations call different roles, but how, in your perspective, how similar?
Yeah. And again, so solution architect, the way I defined solution architect was way Salesforce is defining a solution architect, the 3 delivery leadership tenets of that role. From a program architect, program manager, or someone who's driving the program, their focus is more about essentially managing the resources and capacity to be able to execute a project on budget, in scope, on time, right? So with that, the focus is more about being able to align and remove roadblocks to help a project succeed. It is not the core focus is not about uh, delivering or mapping a business requirement to an apt technical solution. So there it's very complementary skills which are needed to help a project succeed. Uh, but the overlap is comparatively lesser, is what I would say, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, Prashant. And Ankit has a question, it seems. So Ankit, you want to unmute and ask the question directly?
Thanks, Josna. Hi, Prashant. Thanks for the wonderful session.
Hey, Ankit.
So my question is, so assuming a person having more than 8 or 10 years of experience and he is still working as a developer, let's say senior developer, and he loves his job, right? He loves coding, like doing LWC, Apex, and all the admin stuffs. But having 10 years of experience, and he would like to continue the same, which he is currently doing. So what will be the impact if he doesn't want to change his profile from a developer to consultant, or let's say from consultant to architect? He still wants to be a developer at the, let's say, for more 10 years or for more 5 years.
So if the person likes doing development, is really good at it, wants to continue doing, there should be no reason to change. Please go ahead with that. See, so here is, I think, it is a broader discussion, and I think that's also important to understand, especially I think it is sort of coming across in some of the questions is, see, there are different roles, but we should never look at one role as more important as the other. We should look at what role most aligns with what I like to do, right? Like if I wanted to be a developer, I would have loved to be a developer and just do coding, right? If I want to be a solution, I did because for me this aligns. I love solving business problems. I love technology. I may have loved coding if I'd done it, but I didn't, right? But there are enough people in the industry who I know who've stuck with development, who are the best coders you can find, who have been doing it day in, day out. Their title reads developer, 15 years experience. But when they say developer, they're the real deal, right? They know this, they've done this in and out. They're the best at what they do because then they love what they're doing. There is no, and also from just to complete the discussion, there is enough opportunity and in all aspects, remuneration and your recognition of what you do based on whatever role you're doing. So it's not like because I'm a developer, I'm something short, I'm not an architect. Architect has a different role to play, right? But no architect is successful if you don't have a good developer. No program manager is successful if you don't have a good tester, for example, right? Every role is important. It's important what works for you. What do you love doing? So Ankit, to your question, I think the impact is more if you switch. If the person switches and says, no, let me try something else, which I may not really like because it is either more popular, sounds more senior, or maybe talking to more senior people. All that is in perspective of what you're doing, right? You're spending 8 hours at least of 1/3 of your day doing something which you are getting money for. Hopefully find something which excites you, which you feel motivated. Yes, let's get up in the morning and tackle this thing. So you should feel really motivated by that by yourself. So that's why even when I was talking about Vanessa's question, right? Definitely have a goal in mind, but keep that goal aligned with what you feel and reevaluate that. Look at different opportunities. If as a developer you see there's something else using my skill set which can give me something more satisfaction, definitely go for that. But don't lose perspective of what you want to be, because at the end of the day, the rest of all that doesn't matter, right? We want to do something which will give value, give happiness, give satisfaction. That is fundamental to everything else aside. And all said and done, that's what we'll be most successful at. So long philosophical answer, but I can't think of any other way of explaining this, Ankit. But
Very
great
well.
question nonetheless.
Yeah, very well said, Prashant. I love that. So we will quickly have a duck race, but before that, one last question by Samantha. So how important is the organization size in pursuing this?
Oh, great question. That is so if I understood the question clearly, is because of the nature of projects you're working, how big the organization is, you may not get that sort of role. Is that what the question is around? I'm assuming that is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I
Yes. Okay. She said yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So, of course, so it's a balance. I think it's a nature of opportunities the organization allows you. Sometimes there are smaller organizations which will have larger projects. Also, with smaller organizations, you may be able to have a bigger role in what you do, right? So when I started my career in my company, it had less than 2,000 people, and when I left my previous organization, it had about more than 30,000 people. So your exposure in that growth of a company which is small and growing, you get a lot of exposure. If I join a company which has 100,000 or million people, then obviously I'll be a smaller person in the bigger scheme of things, but I will be in a much more organized setup. There could be potentially more opportunities in the sense of there could be more larger projects, but I might have a smaller role. So I think as you're growing, the experience part of that journey, right? I know that you cannot control which projects and which company always you work on, but try to guide it or have a conscious factor in your mind to see if you can get projects which are in line with what you want to grow. You can seek those opportunities. So when you're looking for the roles you're in your organization, or as you move to different organizations, call that out, that this is what you're looking for. This is how you would like to contribute. This is your value you bring, and this is where you're looking from a growth perspective, and see if it gives you that. Sometimes small organizations can give you fantastic leadership and growth opportunities. And sometimes large organizations will give you an excellent exposure to structured process, large scale implementations, which have been executed repeatedly. So a lot of best practices you may get there. Mid-sized companies may give you a balance, right? So wherever you are, you will get something out of it. But at the same time, keep thinking from yourself and like, this is working for me. Am I getting the right direction? And okay, so if it is not making sense, then potentially maybe next year I might start looking for something an organization which can give me these additional 5 things which I'm really keen to enhance myself in this particular journey, and then be on the lookout. So the idea is, whichever journey, solution architect or any other journey you want to be, have a conscious view of where you stand today, and look at how you can progress, and analyze yourself. This is where I am. This is what I want to learn, and try to help. Things may not always happen how you want, but if you make a decision, if it doesn't happen this year, next year it'll happen, right? That's all you have to achieve. So again, a diplomatic answer to Samantha's question, but that's how life is, right? There is no prescribed pill, do this and it will solve all your problem. You have to see which pill works for you, but you have to look at what you need and what each pill allows you, and then pick and choose. So hopefully that makes sense.
That makes sense, Prashant. And thank you everyone for joining today. And I'm sure this session is really helpful for everybody, no matter if you are planning for to become the solution architect now or later, but the inputs that are shared today are really helpful to everyone. And I especially thank Prashant for spending his time and his inputs and wisdom. And we will have more sessions in the future as well. And most of the sessions will have the certification vouchers as the swag. Please follow and try to join whenever you can. And this recording will be available, and I will send out an email notification as well with the recording links and all. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, JB. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Bye.
You have a good day. Bye.
Yeah.